Even when truth isn't hopeful, the telling of it is.
There will come soft rains and smell of the ground, and swallows circling with their shimmering sound, and frogs in the pools singing at night, and wild plum trees in tremulous white. Robins will wear their feathery fire, whistling their whims on a low fence wire, and not one will know of the war, not one will care at last when it is done. Not one would mind, neither bird nor tree, if mankind perished utterly. And spring herself, when she woke at dawn, would scarcely know that we were gone.
It's good to see you all here today. I know it's bitter cold and we had a big congregational meeting this morning, so when people still come out, I'm very, very grateful. Today, so I've been away. I've been on study leave a little bit. I had some time to think, which is really good. The call to this pulpit really is to create a lens or a framework to help people understand the world, right? To find our own moral center, and liberal religion is designed specifically to be relevant and responsive to the world, which means I'm often reflecting on our political situation. It is, as I understand it, my job to pass life through fire. But I need time to do that. So I am very, very grateful that I've had that time. And after this time, I've sort of I've distilled all of this thinking into 3 questions. And one of those will be the topic of today's service. I'm really asking myself, what is really happening in the world right now? I'm asking, what should we be doing about it? And more specifically, what are we willing to risk to stop it? And the third is, who do we need to become in this moment? So I'm taking those 3 questions and creating this little sermon series. This will be the first, and the other 2 will come a little later in the winter. So today we're looking at the question of what is really happening. Let's begin. Here we are in this bitter cold, the people who came out anyway, gathering in the warmth of this church, of these people, with the winds of winter whipping outside, with the winds of fear and dread. We gather for strength, for hope, for a reminder of who we can be. We gather together for music, for quiet, for a time to pull the pieces of ourselves back in so we can again be whole. This is sacred space, made holy by the years of praying, of singing, and truth-telling done here. Sacred space made holy by our presence and by the love that keeps us warm. Please rise in body or in spirit. Let's sing together, "We Shall Not Be Moved." The words are in your program.
The Unitarian Universalist liturgy always begins with fire. Please join me in reciting our chalice lighting. We light the chalice, the fire that guides and unites our church, kindling the flame of love that burns at the center of our faith. Join me in reciting our unison affirmation found in your programs. Unto the Church Universal, which is the depository of all ancient wisdom and the school of all modern thought, which recognizes in all prophets a harmony, in all scriptures a unity, and through all dispensations a continuity, which abjures all that separates and divides and always magnifies humanity and peace, which seeks truth in freedom, justice in love, and individual discipline in social duty, and which shall make of all persons one beloved community. Unto this church and unto all its members, known and unknown throughout the world, we pledge the allegiance of our hands and hearts. We greet each other on Sundays as part of our shared liturgy. We turn to our neighbor, whether they are strangers or old friends, and we welcome them to our shared space. It's our way of saying that our spiritual path is communal, relational, that we are in this together. Not just friendly, it's how we ground ourselves in this space with each other. Please greet your neighbor.
We're gonna make our way back to our seats while we sing the children to their classes. Children, teenagers, everyone.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, thank you. Now is the time in our service when we reflect on the moment. And I don't know about you, but I've been dreading this moment a little bit. It's a terrifying moment when we are watching the material of our country disintegrating right in front of us. I am doing my best to avoid the freezing cold outside, and in so doing, I find myself inundated by media images of death and destruction and loss. I'm grateful to have a warm place to come inside to, because when the temperatures are this low, I'm aware that not every New Yorker does. I have a friend of mine who often sleeps on 35th Street and 6th Avenue, who I'm not going to be seeing anymore, because he didn't have some place to go and he froze. I tell you this because we should be aware of what kind of city we live in and where our time and attention ought to be. I am particularly struck by how easy it was for me to forget that today was February 1st. And black folks in the room may know February 1st is kind of a holiday for us. It's the first day of Black History Month. And I look forward to Black History Month throughout January, but I forgot until today that it was Black History Month. And so thinking about those realities, what our moment is today, I would like us to enter a time of silent reflection, followed by a time of prayer. Let us pray. Spirit of life, Mother of us all, where are you? Come to us now in the cold of winter. You who made the sun and moon, the stars and seasons, hold us now when we need you most. Your children are dying, freezing beneath winter weather, killed by the frozen hearts of our neighbors, or by the slow passage of time on our weary bodies. In times like these, Spirit, it is hard for us to see you. It is hard to understand your plan. We need your help. Give us reason to trust you. Give us faith, hope, and love, but especially faith in this cold, dark winter. I don't believe you brought us this far to leave us. Spirit of life, Mother of us all, where are you? We are scared, we are grieving, we are tense and nervous and short-tempered sometimes. The horrors around us on the news, on our media, sometimes right in front of our faces, are small compared to what we imagine, what we expect, what we anticipate. Hard times are upon us and harder times are yet to come. We are struggling for hope right now. Remind us of your presence. Remind us of your prophets. Give us faith, hope, and love, but most especially hope in these times when hope feels hard to find. Because I don't believe you brought us this far to leave us. Spirit of life, Mother of all, you live in us as love. We know what it feels like to be cared for, but we know precious little of how to care for one another. We can be blinded by our loneliness. Remind us here and now, the greatest power in this world is not strength or violence, but gentle love. Gentle love with the strength and power to move mountains, thaw frozen hearts, heal sickness, quiet fear, and reunite us with the ones whom we mourn. Remind us now that love is patient, kind, enduring, not fearless but courageous, not invincible but undefeatable. Love us with all your strength, Spirit, and all your grace right now, because we need you. Give us faith, hope, and love in these loveless times, but most especially love. I don't believe you brought us this far to leave us. We light candles in this community for many reasons, as symbols of our faith, symbols of our hope, symbols of our love, or simply as signs that we are not alone. All in this space are invited now to join us at the altar and light a candle for your own intentions. May these candles be for us today symbols of faith, hope, love, and unity, of the fire that burns within each of us and can never be extinguished. Amen.
On the first day of 1994, indigenous revolutionaries began to descend from the Mexican mountains. Clothed in traditional vestments, faces obscured by balaclavas and rifles nestled into their shoulders, some of which were only wooden replicas. They marched down into the cities of Chiapas, bursting into the halls of political power, training their sights on those who had both engineered and ignored their reality. The day was auspicious. It was the day that the North American Free Trade Agreement was put into effect, a development that these reluctant revolutionaries called a death sentence. This new normalization of neoliberalism, a doctrine of so-called free trade that meant the unfettered exploitation of workers and land, was for them the final nail in the coffin. Years of colonial violence, of crushing poverty and organized abandonment would be exacerbated for the sake of a few capitalists, mostly in the United States. and their way of life would finally be over. The insurgency was a last resort, a final prayer after years of organizing, pleading, and failed policy proposals. The state would not loose its hold on their bodies or their futures without direct confrontation. Yet as these Zapatistas entered city halls and parliaments, they had placed in the barrels of their weapons roses and white flags. The visual was clear. They preferred peace. They preferred life. But if their oppressors would not relent, the bullet was poised to make a different argument. The state chose its path. The police and military were raised to suppress the revolt, and fire was exchanged and people were killed. A new phase of colonial war had begun. There's a spokesman for the Zapatistas named Subcomandante Marcos. He cut a famous silhouette with a balaclava tucked under a cap and a tobacco pipe jostling above his jaw. He was shrouded in mystery. No one knew who he really was, and his disguise meant that he could be anybody. In that sense, he could not be killed. Perhaps he was, even a time or two, but as long as that little hat and mask and pipe kept appearing from out of the wild brush, he was immortal. As a way of discrediting him and the movement he served, Mexican officials started the rumor that he was gay. Subcomandante Marcos replied to this accusation directly. Yes, Marcos is gay. Marcos is gay in San Francisco, black in South Africa, an Asian in Europe, a Chicano in San Ysidro, an anarchist in Spain, a Palestinian in Israel, a Mayan Indian in the streets of San Cristobal, a Jew in Germany, a Roma in Poland, a Mohawk in Quebec, a pacifist in Bosnia, a single woman on the metro at 10 p.m., a peasant without land, a gang member in the slums, an unemployed worker, an unhappy student, and, of course, a Zapatista in the mountains. Marcos is all the exploited, marginalized, oppressed minorities resisting and saying enough. He is every minority who is now beginning to speak, and every majority that must shut up and listen. He is every untolerated group searching for a way to speak, everything that makes power and the good consciences of those in power uncomfortable. This is Marcos. Marcos represented the confrontation of worlds that the powerful have tried to keep apart, with the one subordinate to the other, the one ignoring the other, rendering it unthought and its inhabitants disposable. But he took up arms in struggle against that erasure and death, a living witness to every oppression and a prophet of all resistance, not as a hero or savior to others, but as a member of the vast ranks of the wretched of the earth. Because he is the poor and the dispossessed. He is the killed and forgotten. He is the innocent, rascal children of Palestine, their play interrupted by bombs. He is the dancing, singing angel children of Sudan, their chorus torn by bullets. Marcos is the masses of precious people locked in concentration camps around our country. Marcos is the bodies lying twisted and broken in Minneapolis. Marcos is me, and Marcos is you.
We must gather round the body and examine every wound. Time to face one another. An operation must ensue. There is blood stained on the soil. Hear the trumpets in their cries. We decide, should we be loyal to the fear or to the light? We must gather round the body and examine every wound. Time to face one another. An operation must ensue. There is blood stained on the soil. Hear the trumpets in their cry. We decide, should we be loyal to the fear or to the light? We must gather around the body. We must gather around the body. We must gather around the body. It's time to tell the truth. If we love one another, we won't witness their abuse. Can we say we stand for freedom if we will not pay the price? Faith needs execution. No more standing by. We must gather around the body. Gather around the body. We must gather around. Gather around the body. We must gather around. Gather around the body. We must gather around. Gather around the body. Now's the time. Today we rise. Oh yes, we'll rise. Now's the time. Today we'll rise. Oh yes, we'll rise. Today's the time. Today we'll rise. Oh yes, we'll rise. Today's the time. Today we'll rise. Oh yes, we'll rise. Today's the time. Today we'll rise. Oh yes, we'll rise. Today's the time. Today we'll rise. Oh yes, we'll rise. We must gather around the body and examine every wound. If we love one
That was beautiful. You may all notice that Yasmin and Matt wrote that for this moment. There's an episode in Star Trek: The Next Generation. I just want to say that I have been neglectful in not talking about Star Trek: The Next Generation enough from this pulpit, and that will change. It occurred to me, I think I'm here 7 years, and this is the first time, so I will make up for lost time. Anyway, so there's an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation where the captain is abducted and held by an enemy force. He's in a dark room with one man who turns on 4 overhead spotlights and asks Captain Picard how many lights he sees. And Picard says, there are 4 lights. And the captor says, there are 5 lights. And Picard looks and says, there are 4 lights. He's then stripped and hung up by his wrists. He's denied food and sleep. The captor returns periodically to ask Picard how many lights there are. They aren't looking for information about the fleet, about anything. They just want him to see 5 lights. There's a similar story in Orwell's 1984, holding up 4 fingers, requiring the protagonist, Winston, to say there are 5. In that story, after torturing him, Winston says there are 5 fingers to make the pain stop. It doesn't stop. Saying there are 5 isn't the point. He has to actually see 5 fingers when only 4 are shown. The captain in the Star Trek stories suffers much pain, but he keeps yelling, there are 4 lights. He's promised a good life, a gentle life. If only he would acknowledge there are 5 lights. But in his suffering, he keeps repeating, there are 4 lights. He's rescued, and in the final scene with his therapist, who's also a friend, he says, and I'm quoting, he says, at the end, they gave me a choice between a life of comfort or more torture. All I had to do is say I could see 5 lights, when in fact there were only 4. And the friend says, you didn't say it? And he responds, no, but I was going to. I would have said anything at all, but more than that, I believed there were 5 lights. It's not that he was willing to speak the lie. It's that he believed it. When the same test is administered in the book 1984, Orwell tells us, the party told you to reject the evidence of your ears and eyes. It was their final, most essential command. The danger is not that the subjects would lie. The danger is that they would believe it. Power is not in the facts. Power lies with the people who define reality. We are living in a moment when reality is beginning to fracture under the weight of so many lies. We are in danger of losing the truth. And that statement is so bold it might sound hyperbolic. After all, my life looks very much like it did a year ago. I'm guessing that your lives do too, right? I mean, school is in session, movies are playing in theaters, contracts are still binding. Things appear to be pretty normal. I think Renee Good's life looked and felt pretty normal too. She was in her neighborhood doing what she and her neighbors do. When ICE comes around, they blow whistles as a warning sign. They yell and witness. And when she had to leave to, I don't know what, like run errands, get her kids, she got in the car to do that. She didn't know that she had crossed into a different world where neither law nor human decency exist. She was shot by an officer of the state right there in her Honda Pilot. No one could come to her aid. She was an enemy of the state, a terrorist, as the party has confirmed, and the laws of our constitutional republic didn't apply. And when that happened, many people thought the chaos in Minneapolis would stop. Obviously, things are out of control. The rule of law will kick in. But it didn't. And 17 days later, Alex Preddy, after trying to help a woman to her feet who'd been pushed to the ground, was tackled and then shot at least 10 times. Ernst Fraenkel, the German political sociologist, described his experience in Nazi Germany as a tale of two nations. It's what he called the dual state. In the normative state, things operate as expected, with a governmental system that abides established laws and norms. In the prerogative state, which runs parallel to the normative state, often on the same streets, there's a system of arbitrary power that is dictated by the executive, who has an unchecked authority to target enemies of the state. The existence of the normative state lulls most people into passivity. Everything is fine. No one has to care about whatever chaos is happening anywhere else. In fact, it's not even happening. There are reasons for it that fit into our shared understanding of the world. There's nothing to see here, just move it along. This concept of two worlds isn't entirely new here in the US or in most nations. There are two sets of laws, one for the majority and one for an oppressed minority, or one set of laws that stands for most but is applied randomly for others. Every mother of a black child knows this too well. There have been, from our founding, two nations under God, quite divisible. I'm not going to suggest, though, that something hasn't changed. Instead of seeing this through the lens of common experience, we need to be willing to state out loud that we see the fractured nation. We see the work of the party. Things are not normal as we know it. There are four lights. Part of what makes this moment more dangerous is the scale and the institutionalization of the rewriting of the facts. The President of the United States, the American cabinet, most of the executive branch, the majority of both Congress and the Supreme Court are collaborators in perpetuating the lie. And the lie is simple. There are enemies in our nation trying to bring us down. We have to do everything we can to get rid of them so we can be safe and happy again. What we have is a massive othering that includes everyone in this country who wasn't born here, every person of color whose parents or grandparents weren't born here, transgender people, every non-binary person, every gay, lesbian, or bisexual person, every doctor who offers reproductive health care or vaccines, every lawyer who defends any of those people, every protester or resistor or worker for human or civil rights. And now 1 year in, that list includes every Democrat. Each group has been named the enemy of the state, a danger to the nation, people who have to be eliminated. And you would think this would be more alarming, but it isn't, because of those, even those who are labeled enemies, are living in this normative state. Just like Renee Good, we can see the prerogative state from where we sit, but we don't feel like we've crossed the line yet. While some people are being sent to detention centers where there's very little food and no bathrooms, where children are existing in a state of heightened trauma, where people are being carried off to countries they've never been to and where they cannot be found, most of us are living in a normative state, where our lives are still governed by rules, where permits and licenses are processed, where elections occur on schedule, and markets and trains and storms are all still relatively predictable. This experience is necessary. It keeps us relatively passive. It creates an experience of continuity and stabilizes the country, dampening our resistance. The last words Renee Good said were, "Dude, I'm not even mad at you." And she wasn't. She was living in the normative state, where ICE agents behave badly and good people blow whistles. It's not unusual or somehow outside the frame of traditional American life. The dual state doesn't announce itself. It's a reality that is denied by what Orwell calls, and I will call, the party. Most people start out in the normative state and get shifted into the prerogative state without knowing it. In both states, the law doesn't stand on its own. It's co-opted by the party. It's not that the nation is lawless, but that the law becomes executive property, applied haphazardly, irresponsibly, to the benefit of those in power. Truth is also co-opted. Federal officials offer different accounts. They alter or deny eyewitness testimony. They retell the story to their benefit. They alter images, create AI video, flood the zone with entirely false proof designed to maximize emotional impact. And the people believe them. That was a gun. She was running him over. They are terrorists. There are 5 lights. Some of you have been asking me if we can get out of this without a war. This seems to be an ongoing wonder. And the answer is yes. It has been done. Spain did it after Franco, Chile did it after Pinochet, South Africa did it, so did South Korea. Frankly, the US did it after McCarthy. And each time a country pushes through authoritarianism, they find themselves more deeply committed to democratic systems than when they started. It hasn't ever happened, though, when the people waited for norms to snap back on their own, or because some election fixed everything, or because the courts stepped in and saved democracy. It ended because the people engaged both mass protest and deep organizing, spoke truth to each other, partnered with each other, refused the big lie. They also avoided collective amnesia in quiet times, which I might suggest is what happened between the 2 Trump terms. So back we go to Picard and Winston, both tortured and convinced that what they could see and hear was not true, that the party alone is the arbiter of truth. So how do they recover? So I'm turning to Hannah Arendt, who tells us that authoritarianism doesn't begin by terrorizing the people. It begins with their loneliness. Before our systems break, before we are willing to believe the lie, we are isolated and alone. We know this. The epidemic of loneliness we've been talking about since the pandemic is real, and even just claiming ourselves victims of it can feel shaming. But loneliness isn't a private sorrow. It's a political condition. Media, both mass and social media, replaces lived experience. We sit alone in our homes, celebrating nothing, sharing nothing, feeling like something is happening somewhere and we're not part of it. We turn to online spaces where outrage replaces judgment, where we get lost in torrents of images that fill our brains and bodies, leaving us feeling worse, lonelier, angrier, sadder. And we find ways to connect with others there. We read their comments, agree with snippets of thought, adding our own fury to the whirlwind. And others agree, and we give in to the rising tornado, letting it blow us into whatever groups might help us feel connected, less alone, more wanted and seen and safe. Belonging replaces truth. We don't care how many lights there are. If you say there are 5, that's good with me. When we are isolated, we feel disempowered and unmoored. Propaganda works not because people are stupid. It works because people are lonely. Winston, once he's released and goes back into the world, continues to suffer. He is profoundly alone. Memory is no longer shared. He cannot test his perceptions against others. Language doesn't stabilize meaning. The common world has dissolved for him, making his reality only what others say it is. Picard, on the other hand, recovers. He returns to his friends. He's seen and heard and trusted. He remembers there were only 4 lights. The greatest act of resistance are found in the restoration of communities where truth can be spoken and believed. So my dear friends, my people, my community, this is what we do. This is who we are. We gather each other up. I believe your truth, and you believe mine. When you tell me of your experience in the world, I listen. I hear you, I remember. Andrea Gibson tells us, even when truth isn't hopeful, the telling of it is. In a time defined by the big lie, a time saturated in defeat, when bearing public witness is done at the risk of death, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Together, fending off the rising waters of loneliness, the pull of social and mass media, and the fear of crossing into the prerogative state, holding fast to one another, we together will howl with one full breath. There are 4 lights. Before we close, I just want to remind you that we have a Q&A afterwards. Jonathan and I are here to answer questions. And coffee hour. If you are a millennial or a Gen Z, Karishma's taking you out for coffee. Rest of us not invited. Our final words come to us from James Baldwin, who said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." Let us extinguish our chalice. We send our light into the world where healing and hope are needed. Let us go in peace to love and serve this world and one another. It's good to be with you. And please rise as we sing together something good. I don't know what though. Okay.
Oh, ain't gonna let nobody. Oh, yeah, no, I ain't gonna let nobody. Oh, yeah, keep on walking.
Ain't gonna let no transphobia. Ain't gonna let no transphobia. Gonna keep on rocking.
Ain't gonna let homophobia turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let homophobia turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking. Ain't gonna let no politician turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no politician.
Nobody turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me